In this morning's Oscars announcement, the movie It Was Just an Accident, made by acclaimed Iranian filmmaker Jafar Panahi, was nominated for Best Foreign Film and Best Original Screenplay. Senior arts correspondent Jeffrey Brown recently met with the director to talk about his work, his country in distress, and the work of what he calls a social filmmaker. It's for our Art in Action series, exploring the intersection of art and democracy as part of our Canvas coverage.
The sound of a prosthetic leg dragging across a floor, terrifying to a mechanic named Vahid, who, blindfolded as a political prisoner, was tortured by a man he knew only from his voice and this very sound. Vahid kidnaps the man, and then he and a group of others who suffered the same horror and are now trying to pick up the pieces of their lives are forced to wonder, is this in fact their torturer? And if so, what now? For Jafar Panahi, the director of It Was Just an Accident, the story is personal, partly based on his own experience in prison.
When I was being interrogated, I always had a blindfold on my eyes and I was facing a wall with a piece of paper in my hand. Someone would ask me questions and I would answer on the paper. I didn't know who was behind me. I only heard his voice or his movements when he was walking. And I always wanted to know who he was, know what he looks like. And if I saw him outside of here, would I recognize him or not?
Panahi, 65, is a celebrated figure in world cinema, winner of top awards at major film festivals. His films renowned for capturing the humanity of life in Iran, even amid the ruling Islamic Republic's authoritarian stifling of daily existence and violent crackdowns on dissent. But he has also paid a price. In 2010, he was sentenced to 6 years in prison for propaganda against the state. He undertook a hunger strike and, amid an international outcry, was released after 3 months, but not allowed to travel. Film festivals honored him with an empty chair on stage. In 2022, he was arrested again and served 7 months in Tehran's notorious Evin prison. Upon his release, he vowed not to forget those still held.
Some of them had not seen the outside world for 5 or 6 years. They shared their pain and suffering. They talked to you. They ate with you. They walked in the yard with you. All these things come together so that when you leave prison, you feel like there is a weight on your shoulders.
One result, the new film, a different kind of vengeance thriller, one that often sprinkles in bits of humor. As when his characters, constantly bickering, one in bridal gown for her wedding photos, have to push their van through Tehran traffic. For Panahi, the real question isn't retribution, but how a society ever moves beyond the cycle of violence.
History has shown that these kinds of governments can't survive. One day it will end. One day it will stop. It will collapse. In the film, all these people in their conversations with their emotional standpoints, they want to release it in some way. All of this is just to make the viewer think, what's going to happen? The same conditions? The same anger, same conflict, same violence, same harsh treatments? Is it supposed to continue? Or no, it must stop one day.
You have said that you're not a political filmmaker, but a social filmmaker. What does that mean?
Social filmmaking is a filmmaking that takes the subjects of its films, its ideas, and what's in its past into consideration. And it never categorizes the characters into the good people and the bad people, contrary to political films. That is why I say I make social films, but it may be a political subject.
He's also an endlessly creative filmmaker, often out of necessity. When he was punished with a 20-year ban on filmmaking, he responded with, "This is not a film," a kind of home movie shot on an iPhone. It was shown the world over. So this is not a film, but it is a film. It's almost a kind of joke, but a very serious one.
Yes, because they gave an order that was more of a joke. What does it mean when you tell a filmmaker, you can't make a film for 20 years? That's when you say, no, you can't stop a filmmaker from making movies. He finds a way. He makes a film. You say, stop making films, so I'll say, this is not a film at all.
That ban was eventually lifted, but Panahi still refuses to submit his scripts to government censors. He shot It Was Just an Accident in secret, made nightly backups of digital material, and protected his actors, many of them non-professional, by limiting their knowledge of the full story.
But when you are in those circumstances, the type of filmmaking, working underground, that's what it looks like. That's the norm.
Do you believe that do you believe that you, as an artist, have some responsibility to use your art, your filmmaking, to address the social conditions in the country?
Whether I have a duty or not, I don't look at it as a duty. Rather, I feel that in these conditions, I must speak up. I must make this film. Even if my films are not being shown, at the end of the day, I prepared a new set of conditions for history, for the future, for the time when the conditions are suitable for these films to be seen, these films to be seen.
As Panahi's film racks up acclaim and awards, his country is again in turmoil, with demonstrations in the streets and deadly responses from the regime. And Panahi himself faces an uncertain future, a new one-year prison sentence handed down while he was out of the country for so-called propaganda activities related to his work. I know you're appealing, but you've also said publicly that you will return to Iran. Why?
I don't understand this question at all. When you know that what you do has a price and you have to pay it, and when you see people in prison who have been imprisoned over and over again, but they stand on their beliefs, well, why don't you as a filmmaker do the same?
And he adds, Iran is the place he knows, its language and culture, the small details of its life, and big questions of its future. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Jeffrey Brown in New York.
Wait just a second. We have one more thing to share.
We want to say a heartfelt thank you for watching and supporting PBS News.
Without you, we simply wouldn't be able to provide the news and the information that you trust.
So thank you from everybody here at PBS News.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.